How's it going, team? So I'm going to be testing out our two different cutting heads today. So we've got this design, which is a little bit closer to kind of a scoop, so minimal rotations, but a lot of dirt digging capacity. And then we kind of have a more of a oops, son of a gun, turtle approach as opposed to the hare. And this one will take away less dirt per rotation, but hopefully be able to spin at a higher speed. So first things first, I'm gonna have to knock open the front door somehow. And if I'm not able to knock it open, then I'll have to just drill in through the top. Believe it or not, there's quite a bit of pressure on this door, and it's totally unwilling to budge unless I hit it with a hammer. And even last night it was pretty darn stuck, so it might be even more stuck right now. So not really sure how that's gonna go. So like I said, I'll try to open up the door, and if that doesn't work, we'll just drill through the top. Dirt out of the side hole. I think I'm gonna continue opening it. I'm gonna think about it for another minute or so. Maybe I might try to open it a couple more inches and see what happens. So we need to be able to at least get it about 4 or 5 inches open so we're able to get our cutting heads in to test them. So I'll check in once I decide whether or not to keep on opening it. If I open it, that means I also have to close it. So there's that. So I fractured the door a little bit, so I'm gonna be closing this sucker up. And it's also starting to drizzle on me, which is not great. It's definitely not supposed to do that, according to my weather app. So we're gonna try to close up the door, and then we're just gonna drill through the top. The scoopy one first. We'll kind of see what happens with that. So I'm not sure I'm gonna do this yet. I'm gonna figure it out and then I'll film again. Let's see what happens. All right, and my drill is stalled because I don't have the torque setting high enough. All the way to 20, so it should still slip before it breaks, I think. And I'm applying a little bit of pressure, but not a lot, maybe 5 or so pounds. So let's try it out. Okay, and it's stalled out. Okay, let's go take a look at what happened. All right, so of course the pack up here was not that hard. I did use a, what's it called? Tamper to smash this down a pretty good bit, but as you can still see, it's a little loose on the top. That's me pressing my finger in as hard as it can go, so that's probably a 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch deep groove. So I'm gonna just pull this straight out and we can see kind of how the dirt pulls with it. Okay, so pretty good chunk of dirt managed to get behind the cutter. Why don't we take a look at the cutter itself? Okay, so it hit kind of a clay patch, and 2 of the 4 entry slots for the dirt have clogged a pretty substantial amount. So let me peel that away and you can kind of see what we've got going on here. All right, so it's kind of clay, and there were pebbles and, oh, maybe not. So looks like my fantasy football team might be doing pretty well, so that's good news. Don't have to suffer the punishment of that league. So that one looks like it was a mixture of kind of clay, hard packed clay, and then also kind of soft clay that kind of gummed it up there. So we'll have to think about the groove size in terms of what is actually allowed to get through it. And then for this one, I'm imagining it's kind of the same. So if we look around on the back side first, maybe. We've got a root in there that might be gumming things up as well. So let's pull that off. All right, kind of the same deal there too. Yeah, a mixture of kind of wet clay and then kind of more pebble-like clay that does fall apart in your fingers once you press on it, but to the cutting head it looks a lot more like a pebble. Okay, so, yep. In terms of damage, it looks like a little bit of scuffing on the plastic. This is ABS, I believe it's standard print definition, which means I think what is that, 0.25 millimeters per layer, 250 microns per layer, something like that. On a Little Spot Mini, somebody can look up the specs if they're really interested for what standard definition on a Little Spot Mini is for ABS. But that's the trick with the cutting head. And then let's look down here. How far did we get? Looks like that's about as far as we got. So we got about maybe 3 inches down, and then things kind of gummed up. So I'll try again. I'll try with the other cutting head over on this side and see what happens. Cool. Got some good news. It looks like Travis Kelce is popping off in week 2 of the NFL season. So my fantasy team looks like it's on its way to its first win of the season. So that's very exciting. All right, so now we're on cutting head 2. The setup for this one is a little janky, and it's the first set of prototypes, so we're just rolling with it, and let's just see what happens. Okay, definitely way less resistance on this one, which makes sense. Able to spin a lot faster. I'm just gonna let it go full speed and see what happens. Nope, not gonna go full speed. Gonna go maybe half trigger. Okay, that's about it. Oop. Well, we'll go check it out. Alrighty, so taking a look at the cutting head first. Alright, things are looking pretty good. Maybe a little bit of clogging, but I don't think this clogging is going to actually affect performance because as dirt gets pushed through, it should pull that clog out. I was pretty impressed with how much dirt was allowed through. I think the teeth could be larger. I think that would increase how much dirt is actually cut up because we kind of topped out at this depth. It looks like there might be just a fat piece of clay in our way here, which could have prevented it from going any deeper. But I think larger teeth would help. I think a better setup on my part would also help. It's kind of held together with tape and some screws that are not screwed in because I didn't want to go to the hardware store today. But in terms of the first test, I think that's a pretty good, I think we've kind of pinched in between, or we've sandwiched what we need to actually get. So this one did not quite have enough cutting surfaces, and this design probably had too much, such that it wasn't able to really get at kind of the smaller pieces and make sure they got through. So some sort of compromise between these two designs seems to be a good way forward. So I'm curious what the team comes up with in the next week or so before we do another round of testing. All right, so conclusions. I think I just kind of concluded, but let's come up with some more designs that are kind of able to take the best parts of both of these. I think the best part of this design is probably how much dirt is allowed to get through per revolution. The best part of this design is that it's able to spin at a higher speed. So increasing the amount of cutting power that this head has seems to be the right direction. Sweet.